What is going on? Lego Man 123 here, and welcome back to another tier listing making video, where today in this episode I'll be ranking my favourite The Legend of Korra Season 2 Book 2 Spirits episodes. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off at episode 1, we have Rebel Spirit, and this was definitely an interesting first episode because it was quite cool to see the struggle Korra had with trying to find a deeper connection with the spirit world, because she really does have problems trying to actually get into there, because some of the past avatars could very easily get in her, but her sort of deeper connection with the spirit world is very weak compared to the others. So it was interesting to see that. But then Team Avatar, Tenzin, and then Boomy, Kaya, Tenzin's children, I think they all get invited to a Southern Water Tribe festival, and I thought that was really cool because we really didn't see like the sort of happy and joyful side of the Southern Water Tribe in Avatar The Last Airbender, because they were definitely really struggling. So it was really awesome to actually see this really cool festival where the Southern Water Tribe do take place at. So I might possibly put this first episode in amazing. Next we have the Southern Lights, and this was a pretty interesting second episode because Korra and Chief Unalaq, who is the, could you say king? Yeah, no, chief of the Northern Water Tribe, they basically have to journey through this really dangerous storm to actually get to a very big source of great spiritual power. So it was interesting to see that because Team Avatar, I think it's Marco, Bolin, and Asami might go, but I'm not 100% sure. And then Unalaq's brother, who is Korra's dad, went. And like to see the struggle between both of the brothers sort of begin was definitely interesting because they really have different sides, and it was very cool to see that happen. And like Korra's in the middle of it, so she really doesn't know who to pick, her own father or her uncle. So I really did like that. So I might maybe possibly put this in second position. Next we have Civil Wars, and this was definitely an interesting but also a pretty enjoyable episode because the tension begins to flare between the Northern and Southern Water Tribes, and Korra tries to like stay neutral and pretty much separate both of them from one another without like being too bad about it and like starting a really big civil war. So it was definitely interesting to see that happen, because a lot of things did happen between this, because the Southern and Northern Water Tribe began to have a civil war over something between two other people, which was Unalaq and then Korra's father. So to actually see the impact of those two was definitely quite interesting, and to see the Southern Water Tribe and Northern Water Tribe actually fight was definitely quite interesting. So I might maybe possibly put this episode maybe in first position in perfect. Next we have Civil Wars Part 2, and I'm really glad they actually split this into two parts, because I feel like if they were to squeeze everything in the one episode, it'd feel like really rushed and it really wouldn't work. But I'm also glad they didn't split it into three parts, because then I feel like they would be like having it too long and it would quite easily get boring after like the second part. So I'm glad they sort of balanced that out. But then, this is very interesting because Korra's parents are wrongly arrested for something they didn't actually do, and Korra fights for their freedom. So to actually see that was definitely interesting, because Korra's parents do go to court because they were going to plan an attack on the Northern Water Tribe with some other members from the Southern Water Tribe, but then they do get caught, I believe, and then they actually are sent to court. But then I think it's the judge is actually paid off to actually make them get sent to jail. So that was definitely interesting, and like the whole Civil War part was pretty enjoyable. But then Korra does fight for their freedom, as I did say, and she tries to find the truth. So I might maybe possibly put that episode in first position in perfect. Next we have the Peacekeepers, and this was interesting because the president of United Republic City refuses to help Korra, which I think is a pretty stubborn move, because like he should help the Avatar after pretty much everything she had done in like the first season and a bit of the second season. So then Korra decides to take matters into her own hands, which I think is definitely reasonable, and I think she can definitely do that. But I think as she's running away, or like running away from Desmond and her sister or her brother or going somewhere, she actually gets attacked by a bad spirit or like an evil spirit, and to actually see her like with that facial expression of like shock was interesting, and like Desna, the sister or the brother, were just like standing there watching, and to actually see Korra do the move what Unalaq, I wouldn't say taught her, but sort of showed her how to do it. I thought it was definitely interesting how she tried to do that. She almost succeeded, but the power of the evil spirit was a lot more stronger. But then she then got like smashed into the water by the evil spirit. So that was definitely interesting because I think Unalaq sends his son and daughter to actually take out Korra or kidnap Korra to then give Unalaq. So I might maybe possibly put this episode maybe in third position in Amazing. Next we have The Sting, and this was definitely an interesting one because someone is trying to threaten the future industries out of business, and that is Asami's company, which her father started out, but after her father was sent to jail and all that, she sort of became the person to actually run it. So it was interesting to see this sort of economics side for a TV show, especially the Legend of Korra. And then Marco decides to actually investigate, and then he discovers a much more bigger sort of conspiracy theory and the whole idea about it. And the idea of the conspiracy theory was actually to help the civil war against the Northern Water Tribe, because the Southern Water Tribe, which Varric was, and he was trying to actually get mechs and all that to actually take down the Northern Water Tribe. So very interesting there, and the whole sort of economic side, and I thought that was definitely really interesting. So I might maybe possibly put it maybe in second position in perfect. Yeah, I think that's a good position. Next, we have Beginnings Part 1, and this was such a really enjoyable episode because Korra washes up on an island after she is taken out by the evil spirit in episode 5, and she washes up on this island, and I'm really not sure, but the people who actually pick her up from the island and take her to her the chiefness of the island, they kind of remind me of firebenders with their sort of armor, not armor, but what the clothing they do wear, but I'm not too sure if that is correct. But I really did enjoy the Beginnings Part 1 because Korra is sort of lowered down into this sort of a spiritual water, I think that's what it is, and she begins to see her past lives. I think she sees Aang, but it might be Avatar Roku instead, and I thought it was really interesting with that part. But the part what was the most awesome was when we began to see the story of the first Avatar, which was Avatar Wong, the struggles, how he coped with it, just the whole idea of the first part was definitely pretty awesome. So I might maybe possibly put it maybe in second position in perfect. Then at episode 8 we have Beginnings Part 2, and this does continue off from the first part and begins to tell the story of the first Avatar, who was Avatar Wong, and it does continue off that. So I'm really glad they actually split it into 2 parts, because as I said with the Civil Wars part, if they actually put it in one whole episode, I think it would be really rushed, and we really wouldn't get to have that really awesome and perfect story about the first Avatar. So this one was a little more deeper because we got to see the struggle between the humans and the spirits for the first time, because it was really cool to see that, just to see the struggle and just to see how unfair humans can actually be to spirits. But then Vaatu, yeah, he's the dark spirit, he actually does come and sort of turns the spirits into evil ones because of all the anger and frustration they have on the humans, and to see that sort of thing happen was definitely interesting. But then the best part was when Avatar Wong actually began to experience the other 3 elements, and to actually see Rava enter his body was really awesome. But at that moment when he was beginning to actually learn that Rava could do that, she could only stay in his body for a very short amount of time. If it was say over just gonna take a rough guess here, maybe like 5 minutes, he would actually begin to die. So Rava could only go in his body for under that time. So I thought it was interesting with that part because, like, if it was just straight away, if Rava entered his body and then boom, he's the avatar, I think it'd be really boring and just rushed. So I'm really glad they actually came up with that idea that he couldn't just boom, as soon as Rava came into her body, he could enter the avatar state. And then in the spirit world, because Juan and Rava actually go there to like do the, I think it's 100,000 years battle between Rava and Vatu, because every 100,000 years a harmonic convergence happens, and that is when the good and the bad spirits must fight to determine the fate of the world. So I thought it was definitely awesome with that part. But then the battle against Juan and then Vatu was so awesome. And then after everything seemed lost, they actually do combine Rava and Juan, and to actually see that was so amazing. And then, like, because he was about to sort of glitch, I wouldn't say glitch out, but like he was starting to like shake a bit because Rava was in his body for too long. But then after that, they actually touch one of the spirit portals, and then something really awesome does happen. So it was so perfect to actually see the ending of that, how the first avatar began and all that. So I might possibly put it in first position in perfect. Next we have the guide, and this is when Korra seeks Tenzin's help to actually enter the spirit world for the first time. But we learn that Tenzin, I wouldn't say can't, he just struggles to actually enter the spirit world because he's actually never done it successfully ever. So I thought it was great how that actually happened, because then they had to find someone else to actually help them, which was Janora, which I thought was definitely pretty shocking, but also really awesome to actually see that Tenzin and Pema's oldest child, Janora, could actually enter the spirit world, and she had the most spiritual connection out of any of Aang's like children or grandchildren. So I thought that was definitely pretty awesome. And then once they enter, I don't think they enter the spirit world in this one, but to see Tenzin's reaction of Janora being this sort of a spiritual was definitely great. I like how he just didn't go with, wow, you have spiritual connection, you never leave and ever again. I really liked how he was fair about it, and he just didn't like say, wow, you have spiritual connection, or he was very fair about it, and he was very understanding about it. He just didn't like get upset at Janora and say, wow, how could you do that before me? So I'm really glad that actually did happen, and to actually see them all try to go in the spirit world together was definitely pretty cool. So I might maybe possibly put this maybe in first position in amazing. Next we have a new spiritual age, and this is when Korra enters the spirit world and she begins to struggle with the Avatar's relationship with the spirits, because I don't think the Avatar as Korra hasn't entered the spirit world in a very long time, so it has definitely changed in a while. So I'm really glad it does change, and we get to see like another side of the spirit world instead of the same one Aang actually does see. And then the most coolest part was when we actually got to see Iroh for the first time in a very long time. So I'm really glad they reintroduced him, and to actually see him be involved with the spirits and have like some sort of tea party was definitely pretty awesome. But then I really liked, this was an interesting idea, and it's quite hard to actually get your head around it. I was actually quite confused on why Korra, once she entered the spirit world, was a young child again, not herself. And I think I have the sort of right explanation for that. It's because she's new to the spirit world, and she's like a sort of child entering a new sort of era. So like she's entering, almost coming out of like her mother in a way. She's being reborn in the spirit world in a way. Hopefully that's not too confusing. But I'm really glad they didn't make her an adult straight away as she entered the spirit world. So she had to sort of cope, and she had to become herself again in the spirit world. So she had to become herself, as I did say, and she had to overcome her sort of fear of the spirit world with like creatures what may look scary in the dark, but then they're not in the light. So I really did like that sort of balance between that. Hopefully that did make sense though. So I might maybe possibly put this maybe in last position in perfect. Next we have Night of 1,000 Stars, and this was when President Raiko is attacked and Bolin does save the day. And this was when Bolin was a movie star, because Varrick has an idea to make Bolin a movie star, so then the Southern Water Tribe actually attack the Northern Water Tribe, so they sort of get inspired Bolin to actually attack the Northern Water Tribe. So I thought it was an interesting idea, but I kind of feel like it's not really Bolin. He sort of got forced and sort of one-sided in a way to actually do this. But I feel like if Bolin had a choice, I feel like he really wouldn't do that, because I feel like Bolin isn't really cut out to be a movie star. So for that, I might possibly put it in great, because he was taking all this fame and fortune, and then he really didn't do too much with it. And then I wouldn't say his girlfriend, but the sort of his movie star person who like is the sort of damsel in distress in the sort of movie. She actually sort of is like really biased in a way, and sort of like not jealous, but like what's the right word to describe it? I'm really not sure on how to describe it, but she was like really biased and upset because like Bolin, she's like, you're like nobody to me and all that. But then after a while, she thought, he's something. And then like she actually became Bolin's girlfriend in a way, but it really didn't last too long. So I thought that was quite strange how she actually did that. Like at first she thought, you're just like another movie star, but then like after it became famous and all that, like the movie, she thought, I'll give it a go. So it was an okay idea, but then how he actually did rescue President Riker was an interesting idea. And then episode 12 is Harmonic Conversions, and this is Korra and company, which is Team Avatar, which is Bolin, Marco, I think Asami, and then also Tenzin, Kaya, and Boomy. They try to close the spirit portals, which are the Northern Water Tribe 1 and then the Southern Water Tribe 1, before Harmonic Conversions. And I thought it was definitely interesting how it was like a race against the clock before this actually did happen. But then we learn Unalaq was, I think, not there the whole time, but he was there for like quite a while with Desna and then the brother or the sister. I can't actually remember both of their names, but I think one is Desna. And then they actually did capture Janora, which I thought was definitely pretty shocking, because like to actually see Unalaq do such a crime was definitely pretty shocking. But then the worst thing was that he was actually going to open up the sort of prison in a way of Vaatu being trapped by all four elements in the Tree of Time. So it was definitely interesting to actually have this sort of race against the clock. So I really did enjoy that part of it. But then they actually do fail, and harmonic conversions does happen. So I might maybe possibly put it maybe in first position in amazing. Now I might move it up maybe in third last position. I might maybe take it down into second last position. Yeah, I think that's a good position. Second last position in perfect. Next, at episode 13, we have Darkness Falls, and this is when Korra discovers a new twist in Unalaq's evil plan, which, as I said with the previous episode, was to actually unlock Vaatu from the sort of jail cell in a way, in the time of Tree. Yeah, in the Tree of Time, sorry about that. And to actually see him do this, unlock Vaatu was definitely pretty sort of scary, because like this could be the end of the Legend of Korra in season 2. But then to actually see him almost have this idea of combining Vaatu to Unalaq to actually create the Dark Avatar was definitely something pretty dark and also pretty scary, because like the Dark Avatar sounds a lot more powerful than the regular Avatar. But then the battle, just as, I want to say regular humans, but the battle between one another without them being like sort of spiritual and like giants was definitely really enjoyable. The whole sort of movement of it, the sort of tension was definitely really awesome, and also the suspension, because we don't know who's going to win. But then something really shocking did happen. It was when, I really can't describe it too well, but it was like when they sort of linked arms by water, and then Vaatu begins to actually sort of clash, like sort of suck out Rava out of Korra, and that was definitely pretty shocking. And then like throws Rava into a rock, and then I would say Vaatu begins to actually kill Rava, because at that moment it kind of felt like Unalaq really had no power, because Vaatu had basically all control over his body, so he was basically in control, and then he began to destroy Rava, and that was so sad to actually see that, because we know that if Rava gets ripped out of Korra, then there can be no more Avatar, like the Avatar cycle would be broken, so it was something very scary. So I might maybe possibly put it maybe in, maybe third position in perfect. Then finally, at episode 14, we have Light in the Dark, and this is when Korra discovers a way that she may be able to defeat the ultimate dark spirit. Now that is something pretty scary, to save the world, and she goes in the Tree of Time. So I thought it was definitely interesting how she actually did use this, and the Tree of Time actually has pretty much all of Korra's memories from like maybe when she was a young child, all the way up to the moment, like right now, as she was in the tree. So I really did like that part. But then she actually she closes her eyes and she begins to sort of turn into this spiritual blue, I want to say monster, because Vaatu is actually a monster, but then Korra is some sort of like giant blue sort of, what is it called? Like a giant blue sort of a spirit in a way, yeah, I guess you could say that. And it was so awesome to actually see how she entered the real world, and the battle between Vaatu and Korra was something pretty awesome. I really did enjoy it, like the whole sort of battle in the water, and the tension built up from the music, and then as things couldn't get any better, we all of a sudden see Janora basically come in this sort of like golden circle and basically float down to Vaatu. And I'm not sure what she does. I think she floats into Vaatu, or sort of like place this golden thing into Vaatu, so then Korra can do the final blow. So that was definitely pretty awesome to actually see that. And then the whole battle in the water, as I did say, build up the suspension, because it's really hard to do a battle in water at such a big size. But then, as Korra re-enters the spirit world without her sort of blue giant spirit thing, she actually is quite upset, because Rava was ripped out of her, and like to see everyone's reaction, I'm really glad no one went like, we don't need the Avatar. I'm really glad everyone was upset equally about it, but then Korra was the most upset, because she really did struggle without not Vaatu, of course not Vaatu, but Rava inside of her. But then we have this really cool moment as like the music builds up, and Korra and Rava actually begin to sort of like turn into a circle with one another and actually touch one. I think it's the blue side of the harmonica version sort of part, where like they both link up, and she touches it and they both rejoin one another. So I really love that part, because I feel like if they didn't actually do that in this season, I feel like it really wouldn't work, because this is the season of Spirit, so it really worked really nicely, and it was such an awesome ending. So I might possibly put this maybe in, I want to say second position. Yes, second position in perfect. So I hope you guys did enjoy this tier listing making video, because I really did enjoy sharing my thoughts and opinions on the Season 2 Book 2 Spirits Legend of Korra episodes. I would definitely love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. And as always guys, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if necessary, goodbye!